All right, so Mayor Stoney, thank you for joining us today for this question and answer as a Black JMU alum. So the first question I want to ask you is you are not originally from Virginia, so tell me how you made your way here.
So I was born, and for the first part of my life, about 7 years, I was raised on Long Island, New York, Nassau County, and my uncle was stationed at Langley Air Force Base in Hampton
Okay.
Roads. And he said to my grandmother and my father that y'all should move down south because I think it's going to be more opportunities for not only you, but also for these kids. We were growing up in some tough parts of Nassau County, and my grandmother asked my mother, could she take us? Which was a huge decision to make for a mother to say yes. But she said yes, and we ended up being raised in Hampton Roads. And when I left Hampton Roads, I went to James Madison, and then from James Madison to the city of Richmond.
Nice. What was your yes moment that made you choose JMU? I know we all have one.
So the story about my admission to JMU and my acceptance at JMU, it's pretty interesting because I had applied to a number of different universities in Virginia. My dad said, "There's no way we can afford any of these private institutions, so you better just narrow this down to Virginia schools." And I didn't have a computer in my home when I grew up, so we didn't have a computer. My friend said, I'm not going to JMU. I will bring you the application tomorrow before the day of the deadline. And so he brings me the application tomorrow. I fill the application out by hand. I had a stack of my personal statements ready to go. So I fill it out, complete it by hand. I take a personal statement, put it together, take it to my guidance counselor because I grew up in a low income family. I got a waiver on my admissions, and sure enough, fast forward a few months later, I get a big old package in the mail that said I got accepted to JMU, and I knew right away that's where I was going. My cousin was already attending there already, and so I'd never actually visited JMU except for I ran track twice. I went to
Okay.
Richmond Stadium. That's all I went to.
Wow.
Didn't do any tours or whatnot. It was essentially mostly sight unseen. And so if I said if my cousin could do it, I know I can do it. So once I got that package, I said yes, and I was headed to JMU.
Nice. What's your favorite JMU memory?
My favorite JMU memory is I could always say, oh, when I was elected student body president twice, I could say, oh, that's a great memory. But one of the memories that I hold on to the most is there was a gentleman who was at one time the head of CMIS, right? He was
Hmm.
also this AVP, an assistant vice president over at JMU.
Okay.
And one day he said to me, his brother's name was Zebulon Davenport. And he said to me, Zeb Davenport said to me, hey, young man, meet me here at 5 o'clock. We're going somewhere together. And I said, where are we going? I meet him in the parking lot at 5 o'clock. We walk out to his car, puts me in the car. We go to TJ Maxx. He takes me to TJ Maxx, takes me to a rack that had, dress pants and trousers and dress shirts. And he says, if you're going to play the part, you got to look the part.
Oh, wow.
So he said, I want you to pick 3 shirts out, 3 pair of pants. So when you are dressing for success, you're going to have the clothes that your counterparts in the room have. And I will always remember that because he didn't have to do that. He saw something in me that I don't know if I saw it myself at the time, and he wanted me to look the part. If I'm going to be a leader on campus, he wanted me to look like a leader.
Wow, that is definitely a very unique story. What skills do you actively use that you developed at JMU aside from learning to dress the part?
Well, you know what? JMU was a place where I honed my leadership skills. I was already a political science and public administration major, but I said, how do I move from taking what I learned in the classroom and applying it, in the real world? Working in student government gave me that real world experience of being a passionate advocate for others. and also allowed me to just get my feet wet, I guess, in what I do today. That is politics and government. If it wasn't for the experience of like going to fraternity houses, going to different organizations, and making my pitch to the people, to my fellow students, it sort of laid the foundation for me to do what I get to do today, working in government, whether at the state level or working in government at the local level here in Richmond. I do similarly to what I did back then, today in my world.
Nice, getting that hands-on experience in college. Now you mentioned the guy who took you to TJ Maxx. Would you consider him a mentor? And if so, why do you feel it's important for people to have mentors?
Yeah, when I was at JMU, Zeb Davenport was a mentor of mine. He was also, I believe, many people will know who Zeb Davenport is. Another mentor of mine actually is a judge on the circuit, a circuit court judge in Virginia Beach. Another black alumni as well. And gosh, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. Judge Kevin Duffin is
Okay.
was a mentor of mine as well, and Kevin told me I could be student body president of JMU one day, which is a predominantly white institution. And what I think mentors do the best, what they do the most, and they do the best at is when you start to doubt yourself, they sort of extinguish those doubts, right? You are
Right.
obviously, confidence matters when you're trying to do something big. If when you have a dream, and what mentors do is they sort of shepherd you through the process of, pulling the trigger on that big dream. And there's not a time in which I can pick up the phone and call Kevin anytime, even though he doesn't get involved in politics anymore because he's a judge. And when I told Zeb Davenport I was going to run for president of the student body, he was like, "Let's go, let's do it." It helped reinforce what your parents, the roles that your parents played back at home. My grandmother and my father said I could do anything if I put the hard work in and when I put my mind to it. What they did for me at JMU was reinforce what I learned in my household, and you need that in order to thrive.
My mom always says you have to have somebody else tell you what to
That's
do
right.
when your parents and grandparents tell you that you don't listen.
That's right.
Um, um, when you weren't being student body president, did you have time for any football games or
Yeah, I used to
any
go.
athletic activities?
Let me
Okay.
say this: football wasn't what it is today.
Right.
Right, right.
Right.
We didn't tailgate. We may have gone to the homecoming game, and by halftime we were out of the game. But I did go to football games. I used to play intramural football as well, like freshman and sophomore years. I used to do that. So yeah, I enjoyed a lot of different activities outside of just being in student government.
How has it been to see the university as a whole, athletics, academics, minority population evolve from the time you were there until now?
Well, to me, it showed that JMU was committed to actually building out this larger community. And in order to have what I think is a thriving community where people feel like they belong, you have to invest in intentionality, being intentional about bringing the most talented black and brown students to your campus in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which I know for some will not be an attraction in its own right. But once you get there and you meet the people who are involved, and whether to say someone who looks like me in student government, someone who looks like me in ambassadors, someone who looks like me working in CMIS, you realize, you know what? I think I can do well here. And when I got on campus, and I got on campus through CMIS, right? I was part of one of those programs where I graduated one day, the next day I was at JMU. I graduated high school, next day at JMU for the summertime. And right when I got there, I was like, this is the sort of community that's going to allow me to pursue my dreams. And so they've done a really good job in building out a larger community. At least the community is. We have had our bouts with diversity at JMU. We all know that, but
Hmm.
it's becoming more of a place where people see themselves, and I think that's only going to be a feather in the cap to the university moving forward.
I would agree with that. All right, shifting gears a little bit. So you were Richmond's second Black mayor, and you saw the city through COVID-19, social unrest, everything with the monuments. How do you deal with the challenges and those who may oppose your decisions?
All right, so
That
I
was a
got to
lot.
correct
We
the
can break
record.
it down.
I got to correct the record. I am not Richmond's second black mayor. I am not Richmond's. I don't want to get in any trouble with anyone. I am the third elected mayor in this
Okay.
form of government
Okay.
directly, but I'm not the. We are our first black mayor back in 1977, so I'm
Okay.
very proud that we are ahead of the times. And so the question was again, how do I?
You saw the city through COVID-19, the falling of the monuments. How do you deal with making decisions like that and also dealing with people who are in opposition?
Well, first it begins with listening, right? All leaders must listen. You have to have an open mind to make decisions as well. I always say that leadership isn't about rigidity; it's about agility, right? You have to be agile because you never know what the situation or the times will present. And when I look at 2020 and guiding folks through the pandemic, I was listening to not only my residents but also to the experts, the medical experts, and those in the medical field who understood the science behind what was happening, not just in my community but our community at large, our country at large. And so I was vigilant. You have to chart out and stick your neck out when times are tough. And I was willing to do that. At the end of the day, this can't be about whether or not a person gets reelected or not. It's about doing the right thing. Being reelected, being elected in general, is just a byproduct of doing the right thing. And when we took those monuments down in 2020, it was solely about doing the right thing. Yes, the tensions were high. I think us removing those monuments helped sort of to calm the tensions. But at the end of the day, it put the city on a course to be a more welcoming and more inclusive city, a place where people belong. And now, fast forward to 2024, people are choosing Richmond.
Yes. I've grown up here, born and raised, and it's amazing to see what Richmond looks like now. It is definitely not the same city it was when I was growing up. Um, is there any advice that you would give to your 17, 18-year-old self who was applying at JMU and other colleges?
When I was applying for JMU, I felt like we always think we have it all figured out, right? When we
At
leave high
18, we know
school,
everything.
at 18, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. I know what job I'm going to get. I know how I'm going to get there. It must be structured. I got to do this in year one. I got to do this in year two. And what I've told young people in the past, and what I would tell young Levar back when he was 17, 18 years old, that would be um, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. The journey will take you. You will go into peaks and valleys. You're going to take far left turns, far right turns, and you're going to have a destination in mind. But you shouldn't be so rigid about what the course and what the route is going to be to the destination. College and your time at a university is your time to enjoy and experience so much, whether academically inside the classroom, but also socially as well. And so I would go back and say, don't be so rigid about your approach to your destination. Recognize that you just should buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Right, because it's definitely not linear, or at
It's,
least in my
it's,
experience, it's not.
it can be very circuitous at times, so
Correct,
it's not linear.
correct. Um, what advice would you give any, current JMU students, recent graduates, or even just alum in general who may be looking to get into the government sector?
Hmm. Well, getting involved in government is about being more than just a participant in our democracy. You have to be an active citizen, right? People always want to know, what does citizenship mean? Citizenship means obviously when you vote and you have a say in your community, but you got to go beyond just voting. And if you ever want to be a public servant, it means that you have to be in the arena. And sometimes the arena can be very unpleasant. But I'd rather take what I get in the arena versus being on the sidelines complaining and whining about the situation of my community or the situation of my people. I'd rather be in the arena taking the shots. And so, what I would say is for those who are ever interested in government, know that it is not just simply about voting for a particular candidate or registering to vote. You have to go beyond that. If you really want to be a change maker, a change agent, you have to actually step up and maybe run for office, get involved in people's political campaigns, or show up at the city council or the board of supervisors, wherever you may live, and hold your elected officials accountable. I will admit, being the mayor, it can be quite uncomfortable because you're on the hot seat every single day. But remember, I signed up for this, and so I recognize that I have a role to play, but also others have a role to play as well. And that role is holding elected officials accountable. We should not wait to every election to figure out whether or not so and so has done what they said they were going to do. I think the key to being successful in politics and government is to say what you mean and to mean what you say.
Okay, I like that advice. Just a few questions left. Um, at JMU, do you recall a favorite meal or a favorite place to eat? Or, and this can be in Harrisonburg as well.
Well, on campus, I would always use my dining dollars to get a lot of Chick-fil-A.
Okay,
A lot
that's
of
valid.
Chick-fil-A. So that was I used to do that a lot at the old where the old D Hall used to be. There used
Yes.
to be Chick-fil-A there, and I used to always use my dining dollars with that. Sabaros as well. I used to do a lot of Sabaros as well. Um, and on the weekends, D Hall was a go-to
Hmm.
option as well. So those are my favorite meals. My go-to meals at Duke's was always like fries and chicken tenders.
Me too.
Something easy and simple. I remember
And
eating
they
a
were
lot of
good.
those. Also, I ate a lot of those burritos as well. They used to be the ones like the green wrap.
Yes.
Those wraps. I used to do a lot of those wraps as well. It was easy. It was over at where Madison Union is today, what we call Taylor Hall. And so I
Hmm.
would go from the SGA office right downstairs to Duke's, get a quick dinner, go home.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they have Panda Express and Panera now,
Oh wow!
but
Evolution, Tanisha.
right, but
Evolution.
I don't think you can beat Duke's food. Um, as a soon-to-be girl dad, we were kind of talking about this when we hopped on the call. Um, do you feel like your political experience, or I guess your career in general, is going to help you transition into this new era, or are you like, absolutely not? I have no idea what's about to happen, but I'm ready for it.
Now, I will say there's nothing harder than being a mayor, right? There's nothing more rewarding to being a mayor, but nothing harder to being a mayor as well. But someone said, come in a few days, a new chapter of my life will begin, and I will know nothing of the life I had before being
Hmm.
the father to this little girl.
Yeah.
And I'm really, here's the thing, I'm always about the next challenge. And I don't see this as being a challenge. It's just, my next chapter, right? And
Yes.
I don't think I felt prepared maybe, 10 or 15 years ago for that next chapter. At 42, I'm going to be an old girl daddy. Um, but I feel prepared and ready to go because, being a father, being is about being a constant role model,
Hmm.
right? And I want to show my little girl that number one, she deserves a future husband to treat her like her daddy treated her, and that is with all the respect in the world, and that she's a princess that I know she's going to be. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, but I'm also a little nervous as well. And I'm thinking about like when I first learned how to drive. I was excited about being able to learn how to drive, but also I was a little nervous as well. But
Right.
guess what? This comes with no manual, no instruction booklet. This is just me and my wife and this little girl, and I'm just going to pour all the love I can into her and let her know that her daddy loves her.
Yeah, mine just ran into me with her walker. So
Go
yeah,
ahead.
get ready, get ready. New chapters, lots of new chapters. All right, and
Pray for
last
me.
question. Yes, yes, that's yes. Pray for all of us. All right, my last question for you. What is your dream for Virginia? Because we know your political future here may not be coming to an end when your mayoral term does.
My dream for Virginia. Well, yeah, you're right. I'm wrapping up my time as mayor, and then I'm going to be running for governor after that. And my dream for Virginia is for no matter what zip code you live in, no matter the color of your skin, who you pray to, who you love, that you get a fair shot in this state, right? And I feel so. I think my family and all of my mentors have instilled a great amount of conviction that I can help others get a fair shot in this state. And a fair shot to me means that no matter where you live, that you get access to the best education in this country, and that allows you to actually to live out your God-given dreams right here in Virginia. And so that's my dream. My dream is that little kids like me, if you're in a single family home, that you get a fair shot at success. And that's what I'm going to be working towards for the completion of my term, the entirety of my term, and when I'm a candidate out there.